All right, good evening, everyone. Welcome, Finance Committee meeting, February 8th, 2023. Tonight, we've got the Abington Police Department and then the Abington Town Manager briefing their mission and their budgets. We will discuss minutes. I know there were some questions.
There's no reason we can't do that.
All right, Greg. We'll discuss.
Sorry about that.
That's all right, Greg. We'll discuss minutes because there were some questions over the past couple of weeks about how we're formatting them. There's no correspondence. We'll see if there's any liaison reports, and we'll discuss the next meetings coming up. So with that, if anybody doesn't have anything, we can have Chief come up to the podium, and we can begin.
Podium or the table? Podium?
Yeah, podium. Oh, we're doing podium. I like it.
Podium. The decision has been made.
Good evening, thanks for having me.
Yeah, absolutely.
Jump right into the salaries. Is that what you like to start?
No, if you don't have to read verbatim, but if you just wanted to summarize your mission page here,
Okay.
and then we can jump into the salaries, yes.
Yeah, we'll start off with the mission. The Abington Police Department is dedicated to safeguarding our community and improving the quality of life of residents and visitors. The department's mission is to protect life, property, and the constitutional rights of all persons by providing transparent, compassionate, progressive, and professional police services. Treating all individuals with dignity and respect, we endeavor to set the benchmark for modern-day law enforcement. Achievements during the current fiscal year. The department received a $30,000 traffic grant from the Executive Office of Public Safety and Security to conduct traffic enforcement and purchase equipment required for that traffic enforcement. We also received a $1,300 grant from the MED project to maintain of and dispose items received in the department's unwanted prescription drug depository in the lobby. We received a $3,700 grant from the Massachusetts Interlocal Insurance Association, MIA, to conduct simulated scenario-based firearms training. And we received a grant through the Holbrook Regional Emergency Communication Center that allowed us to purchase and install mobile data terminals and printers in all the frontline cruisers. Our goals for the upcoming fiscal year is to establish the Abington Police Working Dog Foundation, which is a 501(c) charitable organization. And that's going to help defray the costs associated with the care, maintenance, and training of the department's canines. We're also in the process of obtaining a $150,000 grant from the Massachusetts Department of Mental Health to hire a part-time embedded mental health clinician to provide mental health training and assist officers responding to calls for service involving forms of mental health crises. We're also looking to obtain a $25,000 critical incident stress management grant from the Executive Office of Public Safety and Security to secure access to clinicians who will help our officers prepare for and cope with critical incidents.
Excuse me, can I just ask you on the grant for the mental health crisis, what type of training does the force get now as far as dealing with situations like that?
Right now, they're all certified in mental health first aid, and we're in the process of having everybody certified in crisis intervention training, which is a 40-hour certification.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions? Or we can jump into the budget and salaries.
Okay. So under personal services, the police salaries, this request is all driven by the contract. We've laid out the various positions and the monies required based on rank, step raises, and projected longevity raises over the next year.
What year of the contract are you in?
We are currently out of a
We're in year
contract and in
one.
negotiations.
But we're in year one now
Yes,
of a
yes.
contract that is
That's waiting
in
to be-
negotiation.
Thank you, sorry.
Any other questions on salaries?
Chief,
Yes, sir.
where are we at with filled positions versus budget positions?
We still have multiple positions that are unfilled. We just had 4 officers graduate the academy and finish their field training. We have 3 more in the academy now. We anticipate hiring anywhere from I'd say 3 to 7 more officers over the next coming 2 years at least.
Because this shows 13 vacant positions, correct?
Correct.
But there's only 5 patrolmen. How would we fill those positions? Because you had mentioned, the number you just mentioned doesn't fit with the 5 patrolmen that you have in your budget. Because there's vacant 5 patrolmen, 2 sergeants, and then,
Well, because there's going to be additional patrolmen's positions once we make promotions. We anticipate making another promotion this month, so that will
Okay.
open up another patrolman's position, and possibly 2 or 3 more after that, which will open up several more.
okay. So what, as far as the way the budget works, so with those in the academy, and they finish up, are we filling them from one of these vacant positions, or is it within a promotion? Where would they fit in this budget? Or are they already in the budget?
They're already in the budget.
Okay, all right. So they're not coming out of any of these vacant positions?
No.
Okay. And what's the reality, what's the likelihood, the likelihood of us filling these patrolman or sergeant positions in the next year?
All of them?
Any of them, yeah.
Likely, we're going to fill some of them.
Okay,
How many, I couldn't predict. We're going to do one more promotion to sergeant. That will fill up one of the 2 vacancies right now. Hoping to make another promotion after that, but that's all dependent on how many officers we can hire for our next round of hiring.
but the promotion still you still have a vacancy, though?
Correct.
Correct, yeah.
Yes.
Okay,
Yeah.
Is
So,
the,
so I think to what Paul's saying, like, in here, we have listed as like sergeant, 2 vacant sergeant positions.
Correct.
In all likelihood, those would be filled by promoting people who are above in the filled positions.
Correct.
And we would essentially replace those with vacant patrolman positions that we
Correct.
would fill, right?
yeah.
So-
Yes.
Okay, just making sure.
Gotcha.
what do you find is the difficulty in getting the patrolman?
Part of it is civil service, and part of it, it's just the field is not as desirable as it used to once be.
But nothing specific to Abington?
No. I think every community is experiencing issues with hiring and retention
Yeah.
currently.
How have we been doing with retention since you took over? I know there was a study before that we did of the department, and there were steps being taken to try and improve retention.
We had an officer leave shortly after I took over for a department in Providence, Rhode Island. It had to be with proximity to his family. That was his driving decision. We had an officer retire recently. I just found out recently that we have another officer leaving for the state police. There's really nothing we can do about that. We can't compete with the state police. But other than that, we've been fine. We had another officer who left the department previously transfer back, so
Nice.
I take that as a positive sign. We're moving in
Good
the
to
right
hear.
direction.
Nice. Good to hear, Chief.
I'm
Yes, sir.
sorry. Just so I understand this, forgive me. So these 2 sergeant positions are going to be internal promotions. So wouldn't the budgetary ask be the difference between the patrolman who you anticipate, or maybe the highest paid patrolman, and the sergeant's current salary, as opposed to an entirely, what looks to be on paper, a net new sergeant or 2?
Marty, I think
I'll let-
Andrew's got.
Those were, they're not new, they're still vacant from last year.
So then we would have 7 patrolman openings if we promote those 2 sergeants.
Correct.
Yes.
Okay. So, I mean, but that's a different number than 7,
Right.
than 5 patrolmen and 2 sergeants.
You're talking about salary number,
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
currently in South
I would imagine that a current patrolman being promoted to sergeant comes with a raise.
That's correct.
I mean, yeah, so like
So
the
I
highest
think
paid,
that's where things get,
highest paid
budgeted.
patrolman at 6 years is what? About 70, 78-ish, somewhere around there, 78, so we're still looking at about 9 grand.
Well, no,
Of an
because you're
increase.
you're budgeted for the sergeant, right? So you're just bumping up the salary from, you have the salary that you're paying now and bumping it up to what you're budgeted for,
Right.
leaving
That much for
that
another
much
patrolman.
for the patrolman. So it would be a net wash, right? Right, Andrew?
Yeah, so you still have the backfill, so.
Right.
If you were to just budget the difference.
I know, but you're
you
still
don't have-
saving some money based on a seasoned patrolman who becomes a new sergeant, and then you hire a new patrolman, you're still saving like upwards of 10 grand.
Oh, you
Per
mean because of
patrolman.
like the.
yeah, so essentially what Marty's saying is if we took, say, the patrolman making $70,000, they promote to sergeant making
yeah.
87 that's listed on
Right.
here.
We're
We would
budgeted
hire
for
in a new
at the
patrolman
60
at
the
63.
63.8.
So the difference between what they were making prior
Right.
and what the new person coming in as.
So there's a
patrolman.
savings there,
Savings of
probably
about
like 35
$7,000,
grand maybe?
Something like that. So depending on what the person who's being promoted made,
Yeah, got
there
it.
could be savings there in the actuals. But as far as mapping out the department, I assume Andrew and the chief were looking at it as in, we need sergeants at this amount, we
Right.
need patrolmen at this amount.
And blue sky day, you would be looking to hire fill those 7 potential vacancies then?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Any other questions?
Sorry about that.
No, no worries.
You're good.
As far as total, this force now, how does Abington compare like surrounding towns? As far as the number? Patrolmen, sergeant, lieutenants?
Well, you'd really have to compare it to somebody that had similar demographics. I mean, we can't compare ourselves to Weymouth. just
Right, but
because
like
of
if
the
you,
size-
like
size of the
Rockland or
town.
Whitman,
Uh,
Holbrook?
I think we're adequately staffed right now, but I'd be looking in the future ahead, maybe a couple more years down the road to increase the ranks a little bit.
So when you say adequately staffed, does that mean adequately staffed with these vacant positions or adequately staffed with what you currently have on?
Adequately staffed if we filled all the vacant positions.
Okay, so,
Yeah.
so that would get you to kind of like a baseline, this is what we absolutely need.
Correct.
Okay, all right, thank you.
Any other questions? Or we can jump into the department budget sections.
Okay, I believe the next item is 5130, general overtime. We're requesting $130,000. It's an increase of $11,441. We use this line budget item for filling open shifts. We're still short-staffed. We use it for overtime incurred for prisoner watches, late reports. Currently, we don't have any detectives, so our officers are conducting their own follow-up investigations, and overtime covers that. Special events such as the town parades and storms, background investigations for the new hires, and the overtime incurred throughout the hiring processes.
Can I just so I don't make this mistake like I did with the fire. Is there any, like there's overtime there, but are any of those other holidays, vacation, sick, are those related to overtime?
Sick has its own line item, and holidays has its own line item.
So is that overtime?
Yes, it is overtime.
Okay.
But we break it out by different line items, because it's easy to track the holidays. It's easier to track the holidays than it is for,
But it's holiday overtime, sick overtime, because we have a line item there that says overtime.
correct.
That is, just for presentation purposes, is woefully understated when you include holiday, vacation, sick. If we're presenting this, I'd just like to really know what the total overtime number is. And it's not being presented that way. I'm not criticizing you, because I screwed this up in the fire, I misunderstood it, but that overtime number is much bigger than what is being presented here.
Right, so I mean, I think we came to the same conclusion last with fire, is that we'd want to see holiday overtime, or
Yeah,
the
yeah.
word overtime in those lines. Yeah.
And it's not
No,
you.
no worries at all, sir.
It's the accountants. It's their fault.
Question two. Without detectives, are you finding yourself being reactive as opposed to proactive?
But right now, we're definitely more reactive than proactive.
Had we not had detectives?
Yep, we've had them,
Brought back detectives at one
gone
point?
back and forth with, but there were prior, and I won't answer those questions.
Prior to my arrival, there were 2 officers down at detectives. They had to be moved out because of staffing shortages.
Because you can't fill the position, right?
Correct.
Thank you.
And are these, I imagine these holiday numbers are part of the contract?
Which line item are you
The
referring
holiday
to?
overtime, the sick leave overtime.
5142.
5142 holiday pay, that covers the costs incurred with the 12 holidays as part of the contract.
Yeah.
Yeah, and these numbers will change once we do come up with a contract.
Okay. Any other questions for the?
Yeah, just one last one.
I'll
Is it-
go for it.
As far as if these positions were filled, would that have a significant impact on the overtime?
As in reducing it?
Yes.
It would have an impact on the general overtime line item, because we would be over our minimum manning, so if someone took a vacation day and we were over minimum manning that day, we wouldn't have to backfill that position like we are now. But as far as overtime for holiday pay, it would increase, and some of the other overtime expenses would increase, so it would, in the end, it would just break even, it would offset.
Okay, it wouldn't, okay.
Any other question on the salary piece? We can jump to the expense section.
Starting from the top, fuel oil's been removed from the budget. The next account is 5240, building repair and maintenance.
The oil was removed because we're doing it on the, we're going to see it
Consolidated.
on the,
It's on mine?
Yep.
Yep, you'll see it, you'll see it later this evening.
very much.
So we're seeking a $5,000 increase over last year's request. Use this account for roof maintenance, the air conditioning and heating system contracts and servicing, carpet rentals, blacktop sealing, other miscellaneous repairs. We recently did some painting, had to replace some floorings. Currently in the process of replacing the toilets, several of our toilets in the cell block area to the tune of $9,000 each, garage door repairs, et cetera. Any questions on that? Postage has been removed from the budget. The next line item is 5341, telephone budget. We're seeking an increase of $1,250. We use this account for the building phones. They're recorded and the storage associated with recording those phone calls. The cell phones, station phone numbers, including our tip line, fax lines. This also takes care of all the air cards for the cruisers, mobile data terminals, and any other associated telephone equipment we need.
Did you say fax line?
Yeah.
We still use the fax line?
Yeah, they still come in as part of the fax scanner copy machine, so some people do use it. We got a fax recently.
We want a trip to Cancun.
You'd think they wouldn't send those to the police.
Right?
Any questions? The next item, 5344, is the radio budget, seeking level funding. As last year, we used this account for portable radios for full-time and special officers, radio console repairs, batteries and charging stations.
So how new are your radios?
We just acquired 10 more new radios. We've had to upgrade.
And so you have ones that are older that that you're still using?
Correct.
Pretty
Similar
quickly.
to computers, over the course of time, they become obsolete and they need to be replaced.
So is that FY '22 actual number real?
That's what I was trying to figure out too. Like budget 23, what was that? What, do we have any, we don't have any clue. What was the budgeted number for 22, do you know?
I don't have the spreadsheet out. I did send.
For radio,
No,
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
Yeah, for
Yes.
radio?
Karen,
19,000.
I have another question. I'm sorry, I'm a little bit
For-
behind still.
Yep.
So,
No
I
problem.
like to look at the numbers, forgive me.
So
I'll
for
come
FY
back to my question.
'22, we have an actual number of $427 in what we're looking at.
Oh, okay.
So I think Marty was wondering if that's really what the number was in FY '22?
It might have, the
what we
expenses might have
budgeted.
been booked to a different account, but that's what's showing up in FADR.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, they also may have parlayed that money into something else. Not needed the radios and decided that they needed more IT equipment or something.
We can keep going.
Okay. 5349, IT service and equipment. We're asking for a $20,000 increase this year, and the reason for that request is our RMS system. The software subscriptions and fees yearly have increased. This account covers all our records management system software, monitors, the hard drives, all service calls and repairs, our internet service, Gmail account for the department. We recently had to upgrade our cameras. We're going to have to continue to do that over the next fiscal year, as well as upgrades to our data storage capacity. We've also had to replace computers and monitors throughout the police department. Had to acquire some report writing software and some new network switches since switching over to the regional dispatch. So that's the reason why we're asking for that particular increase.
I got a question. This is for Andrew, though. So that 49.5 is the only thing that's charged to that IT service and equipment line for the town? But like IT charged 160,000 to other purchase services. Should we be putting that in that line? Because it just seems, from the IT budget, that's for licenses. So if that's what the chief just mentioned, is this is for licensing, I'm not sure why we break this out into two different separate accounts.
And we could consolidate them.
Yeah, okay.
Which two? I'm sorry.
So I think
For
what
the-
Paul's saying is this line for the police department could go in with the
Right.
IT department.
Yeah, because it's the only item that gets booked to this account.
Okay, I see what you're saying.
And then, so in IT, water and sewer use the 4399 account. And I know IT uses it for like licensing, which the chief just mentioned, that's what he uses. That's what the 49.5 is for. Thank you.
Yes. The next account, 5399, other purchase services. This is level funded for this upcoming fiscal year. This covers all our general service contracts, for example, our lease with Xerox, all software service contracts, website fee, mat rentals for the police department in the wintertime, any other service that we require. It covers our live scan, which is our fingerprint machine, another RMS system we use for accreditation and training, PMAM. CP Clear, we use that for our background investigations and hiring, and also for cleaning services. We have to employ a special cleaning service if we have some sort of biohazard, whether in the cell block or in the cruiser. The next account, 5420, office supplies, straightforward, the level funding request for the next fiscal year. After that, 5430, this is the special police officers, level funded request for next year. This covers the equipment costs associated with our special police officers, pepper spray, ammunition for training, and the associated training fees that come with that.
Quick question. How many auxiliary officers do we have?
I think we're
Did
seven
I see something?
seven or eight right now.
We had gotten rid of?
So
So,
what happened was that's why you should refer to them as special police officers now.
Okay.
We lost all our auxiliaries, those officers that didn't have full-time academy certification. So right now, our special officers consist of either retired officers from the police department who are full-time academy trained, or retired officers from other communities or the state police.
Okay. So we should change that probably on the
Title of the line.
title,
Mm.
right? Thank you.
You're welcome. The next account, 5450, custodial supplies, self-explanatory, that's a level-funded request. After that, 5480 is the gas and oil budget. It's been removed from our budget. Next line item is 5481, that's the vehicle supplies budget. This is a level-funded request. This covers any vehicle repair we have, whether it's tires or wipers, repairs or additions to emergency lighting systems, body work and detailing, other cruiser-related supplies such as gun racks, medical bags, seat covers, things of the like. The next item is other supplies, auxiliary. We haven't used that. It's still in the budget, but we don't use it. We're not asking for money. After that, account 5710, that's the travel budget, level-funded request. This covers our transponder costs, meals and mileage for training, lodging costs, and other associated training travel fees. Next account, 5730, this is dues and fees. This covers the department's dues and fees related to such things as the Boston area Public Emergency Radio Network, BAPERN, the Accreditation Commission, NESPIN, our association with the Metropolitan Law Enforcement Commission, Mass Chiefs, Plymouth County Chiefs, FBI LEADA, and the Police Executive Research Forum. The next line item, 5735, training equipment, seeking an increase of $8,000 for a total of $44,000. This account is used to purchase equipment associated with training, such as ammunition, whether it's for our pistols, rifles, or less lethal shotguns. There's an increased amount due to the new hires. Every time they go through the academy, there's a new certification process, requires quite a bit of ammunition for every weapon system. Also covers targets, cleaning supplies, the cost associated with the taser training, replacement cartridges, training cartridges, and pepper spray. Finally is the 5780, that's the unclassified expenses. We use this to cover such things as medical supplies, whether they're replacement AED pads, Narcan, which is expensive, police identification cards, plaques and awards, and miscellaneous food and beverage for retirements and promotions.
Got it. Any questions from the committee on that section?
On that section, no, but I have a couple. You mind if I bounce around a little bit?
No,
This is
go
the
right
first time
ahead.
I've seen this, so forgive me if
No?
I'm leaping all over the place here. First question is for Andrew. Andrew, I still think it would be very beneficial to us as a committee to figure out what the actual versus budgeted for the previous fiscal years was, because there's a $983,000 difference over the 22 actual to the proposed 24. And there's a $729,641,000 ask in the unfilled vacancies. And of those, I would like to know how much we're over budgeting. Because it seems like we might be able to buy a cruiser for what the amount of money that we might be over budgeting.
I believe I sent out a file a couple of weeks ago that has.
Yeah, there was
the
nothing
budget
in it.
and Actual data.
There wasn't-
The Excel file?
Yeah, I can get it to work.
You can go to
So, my point is, are we being excessively safe in our over budgeting in some of these numbers? And could that money be better used to fund another capital project for the police, like getting another cruiser or something to that effect?
probably not.
Okay, great answer. Thank you, Scott. I mean, obviously, we'd rather be safe than, like, need the money at the end, but, like, it seems like there's some wiggle room there.
Yeah, but we also are in, none of the proposed numbers are taking into consideration a contract that we haven't finished negotiating.
Which is problematic.
You
Okay.
know, it's kind of, that's the biggest, you know, rub to the whole thing. I think once we have those numbers and plug them in, then we could
We could
probably.
almost add another patrolman.
Maybe, yeah, I think we can go back to that conversation then.
Do we expect, do we expect that contract to be wrapped up for town meeting?
Yeah, I fully expect it to be, yeah.
Chief, the IT person that's listed down here, is that someone who assists Wayne over at the police station?
The IT person, yeah.
Yeah.
Wayne uses somebody else, there's an outside consultant that comes in and helps with our software upgrades.
So we might have a built-in assistant, I'm just saying, just throwing it out there. Thanks, Chief, sorry. Thank you for indulging me.
So, Marty, I think part of what you were getting at with that is with the vacant positions, how many do we reasonably expect to be able to fill within the coming fiscal year?
Exactly.
And if we don't, like, so, how many vacant positions did we have?
Technically 7 for
Patrolman.
officers, for patrolmen and for the 2 sergeants, so it's 5 patrolmen, 2 sergeants, but we're going to promote from within, so technically it could be as many as 7 officer, or patrolmen, as I understand it.
And keeping in mind, again, actively recruiting and whatever transpires with the final version of our contract could become attractive to folks that want to transfer over.
Yeah.
So all of a sudden, our recruitment issues may become a lot lighter
Right.
They can
when,
solve themselves.
So
Yeah.
the balance that we have to try to make is we have a sort of a target staffing for the department that we're trying to hit
and maintain.
and maintain. And we want to, kind of like other areas in the budget, we want that to be in the budget and prepared for year to year, whether it's filled or not
And-
at the exact moment. But
And then if we're
and,
not certain,
yeah, and I understand the point you're making, like, if we've got 7 positions and we don't think if we don't think there's a chance we're gonna fill 7 positions, do we fund all 7 positions? If we do think there's a chance that we're gonna fill all 7, we fund all 7.
yep, that's an easy decision, but if there's a
So-
chance that we can't, it might be beneficial to move some of that money to a planner.
But the upside to that, well, then
Or to a
you'll,
cruiser.
if you,
Or a
if you
cruiser,
switch
you
it
know
to
what
a
I
planner, you'll never get it back. But
Well,
if you
that's-
switch it to a cruiser, that's something that this group could do technically at the end of the year. The money gets turned back over. We could do, there's line item transfers that can be done, there's, and then the following year, it would be free cash and end up being used for a cruiser. So,
I think a good question too would be, what can we do? What, in your opinion, what can the town do to be more attractive in the hiring process?
I think we're working on that right now. with the
yeah,
contract.
I think I think we're there, to be quite honest with you.
That's good to hear.
I mean, as far
So I
as,
know-
you know, some of the things that we can talk about, and some of the
Right,
things that the
because a
chief
lot of
has
this is doing-
implemented is equipment, cruises, training, opportunities for promotion. There's all sorts of things internally that the chief has done to make it an attractive organization. So I think the final piece of the puzzle is,
Yeah.
you know, any day now.
Yeah, and that's good to hear, because I know Barbara and I have been on the committee predating both of you, and that's been a question before us on several of the years that I've been, probably all of the years that I've been on the
Since
committee.
that, which,
So,
yeah, it's been a lot of years.
so
I think
hearing
it's been
that
adequately,
we
fully
think,
staffed
we think
the
that we're
entire
there
time I've been here.
is good to hear.
Yeah, I'm pretty confident.
Chief, do you share his optimism?
I do.
That's good.
So this complement of staff that we have at different ranks, is, this complement, is Is this the same as it was before you came in, or did you adjust it up or down since you've been in doing whatever analysis you had to do?
Prior to my arrival, we had received approval for 6 more positions last year.
Around that.
Yeah,
That sounds
so
right.
it's just been a matter of trying to fill those positions.
So I think what Paul's asking, and correct me if I'm wrong here, is the balance of patrolmen to sergeants to other positions, is that consistent with what the balance was for slotted positions, whether they're filled or not? From before you came in, have you adjusted the balance of how many patrolmen, how many sergeants, how many people in?
I haven't asked for any additional positions, just because we haven't been able to fill the ones that we've received approval for. But like I said, as soon as we get fully staffed with those numbers, I do believe in the next couple of years, I'll be making a request for at least 2 or 3 more officers, just based on our call volume and what we're seeing and the needs.
Paul,
So-
you're trying to get to.
Well, I just trying to, like, what analysis has been done to say this is the right complement of staff that we need for the Abington Police, since you've been, since you've become police chief in Abington? Like, how do we know that this is the right number?
Well, I did analysis of the shift deployments, the personnel we had and how they were deployed, and I redeployed the patrol shift into 5 separate platoons in order to maintain a minimal staffing level on every shift, to have predictable time off and be able to predict the shortages in staffing as we either lost people or gained people. So that's the analysis I did. The system we had in place before, there was really no rhyme or reason to who was on what shift. So now that we have assigned platoons, it's easier to track everything and maintain the minimum staffing levels for the town.
Okay, and has that been something that you've reviewed, Scott?
Yeah,
As far as
we've discussed this, and if you look around at other similar-sized communities, that's the staffing level that you would see.
And didn't you get that information out of the study that was done?
Well, there was information in the MRI study that was helpful for it. I mean, we're not obviously following that study verbatim, but there was a lot of information there, and certainly staffing levels was part of it. But again, just looking around and, obviously, number of people that you want on the road, the size of the community, as you said, the call volume sort of dictates, how many folks you need. It's a 24/7 operation, 3 shifts a day, so you
You've been
kind of back
long
into
enough
that.
On weekends, you need certain, or,
No.
certain holidays, you know that you need different type of staffing levels, or.
And keeping in mind that, we do want to have detective division, and we do want to have, other specialty divisions, and that takes away from that person who's just out on the road, so there's, it is, again, like you said, it is, compared to other communities, it's pretty much right on line.
But, so we've got detective, but you talk about detective division, is that considered in this budget? I mean, Scott, you're the one, you just said that, it's like as far as detective.
Does he have I don't know what he has.
Yeah, if I had all those positions filled with bodies right now, I would be able to staff at least 1 detective and 1 person dedicated to traffic.
Because we have a detective position right now.
No, we don't, right?
Yeah, we do.
He's on the road.
In the budget.
In the budget.
Right.
But it's also in the not vacant. Sorry, it's in the not vacant part of the budget. It's in the filled
It's in the field, yeah.
part of the budget. It's just a question of if they're able to spend all of their time on that task.
Correct. We don't have the personnel currently to assign somebody to that position full-time.
So you're using that position as a patrolman?
Correct. That's one of the vacant patrolman positions.
I get,
We don't differentiate on that budget.
okay.
The positions aren't listed by specialty positions, like I didn't list the traffic officer, I didn't list the detective. They're just just by rank. So it would be vacant officer's position. And one of the detectives down there was a sergeant at the time, So that would be one of the sergeants, but we don't list him as detective sergeant. He's just listed as one of the vacant sergeant's positions.
Is the lieutenant going to be the vacant lieutenant, is that going to be an internal hire likely too?
I can't say at this time. I don't anticipate filling that until probably the end of next fiscal year, if at all.
There you go, there's 124, 64, 642 left. 2 patrolmen.
He's saying if we're not planning on hiring the lieutenant this year, then that frees up that 124 for
Right.
something else. That's all.
Right.
Any other questions on that topic? Does the department generate any revenue? And the two examples I'm thinking of are like LTC interviews or details that,
So there is a fee that comes to the town through the details, a 10% administrative fee that comes back to the town. Also, the department receives money through asset forfeiture, but those funds have to be used for training.
okay,
Very specific on how you can use those particular funds.
okay.
Do we still have that account?
The forfeiture account? Is it
No.
1 year?
There was a,
I don't remember.
a revolving account.
Enterprise?
So we
Do we
created
know where all
it
that
with
is?
a, it was a threshold. It was.
Was it for tickets?
Yeah.
I don't know if, I don't recall seeing one here, but did we ever have an account here for?
I can look.
It'd be interesting to
Like an
see.
enterprise account.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I know some towns have it and they use it to
Revolving
offset the
fund.
cost of
Right.
cruisers and
Well,
stuff.
we must not have it.
I don't recall seeing it while I've been here, but
It was,
it's usually a local option to adopt it and.
I guess where is all that money being tracked? Do you know? Do you happen to know, like the 10% that are coming in from details, where it's going?
I don't have that answer right now.
I
Hopefully
think it
Andrew
used to
does.
go into an enterprise account
There's a
that
fund, right?
originally was,
Okay.
I believe that it was a type of enterprise account, that the money went in, that was originally in the custody of the police department, the police chief. But I think that that got changed over and became the responsibility of the town, of the,
I know Whitman had it, it's called the motor vehicle fines account. It's the only time I don't,
Is it something you can,
I
yeah.
don't recall seeing it here.
I want to say there was a $80,000 cap at one time.
That's interesting. Money's coming in, just don't know where it's going. So
Let me do the research.
Andrew's
and get
got it.
back to you.
He's got it. All right.
I'm going to guess it might go into that.
Yeah, just. Any other questions? So we've got other budgets at the bottom here, which is just,
Oh, I do have one more question, I'm
Sure.
sorry. What do we do currently for a matron?
We hired a matron last year. She's been working quite a bit for us, so it's been great. When we can't utilize one of our matrons, we utilize one of our female officers. When we can't utilize one of our female officers, we reach out to the Plymouth County Sheriff's Department, and they provide us with a female matron, and we have to pay for those services.
That's kind of a very specific type job. Thank you.
You're welcome.
anything else?
Thank you. Thank you.
You're welcome.
And Chief, unless you have anything else, we're good.
No?
All right,
Capital,
perfect.
no, any capital items?
Yeah, capital.
You got two
Mm.
cruises?
Cruisers, warrant
This year is going to
articles.
be a 3 cruiser request.
Oh, 3 cruisers.
We do odd even. So last year was 2 cruisers. This year, upcoming year will be 3.
Last year you got 2 cruises and 2 motorcycles, right?
That's true. 2 motorcycles, these ones cruise.
I know we had, Barbara, correct me if I'm wrong, we had been on a 2-2-3 schedule, but COVID messed that up, and I don't know where.
I have them slated for 3 in the program right now. You know, everything's subject to the next couple months of funding, but we'll see. That's what we're getting pegged for right now, though.
Any other warrant articles or capital?
We're waiting right now for the contract to wrap up, and should have a warrant article after that.
Following up on a warrant article last year, the whole military coverage
We did MOAs with police and fire on that.
in the contract.
Yep. Yeah, they're actually existing MOAs right now.
Okay.
They're in line, and I believe we checked DPW when we met with them. There was no interest or no need for it over
Yeah.
there, so.
So I know last year when we talked about that one, we felt that it was something better to do as a collective bargaining
Yeah.
thing than the way the article was written.
And actually, and then we weren't even using it sort of as anything, as a leverage or anything. We just
Right, not-
actually, right
not
away, we
leverage,
went
just trying
and.
to have it in there. to
Yeah, we put it into
cover
those
it.
agreements, and we did it right away.
Good.
Fire, actually, I think we did first, and we used the model one that they had, and we'll continue to do that.
Good, glad that's covered.
Anything else? All right, very good. Thanks,
Thank
Chief.
you for your time.
Appreciate it.
Have a good night.
Scott, we'll get to see this again after the approved contract.
Depends.
Great.
Approved contract may happen day of town meeting, so you may see it that day.
So this is all just aspirational then?
Gee, it hopes.
Isn't it every year?
Kind of, yeah.
Who can see this? All right, next up, we've got the town manager.
Scotty, you're going to the podium?
I'm not. I really don't know why we started that.
Really doesn't add an air of like formality that,
Yeah, that's typically reserved for
what's that?
those ministerial boards,
Podium.
not a board of such importance. Should I go get the candy now?
Yeah.
What happened to?
Oh, I should have had that big heart candy and flowers for everybody.
There's a line item on this for that, right?
Yeah. All right, let me see. Did I update this?
Is that under custodial supplies?
It's under ICMA. All right, so the mission of the town manager is to promote the goals, values, and vision of the town throughout the organization and the community. As the manager shall also endeavor to lead through example by promoting good communication, transparency, accountability, and ethical behavior, all while providing the highest level of customer service to the community possible. Some of the achievements, just over last year was, we finally finished the project of updating our personnel policies. That achievement actually turns into a goal because there's more work that has to come with that as far as introducing them to the employees, to the staff, educating them on exactly what's in the policies, and then also impact bargaining the policies with all the collective bargaining units. So we have a ways to go with it, but I'm glad that we got the first step done, which was a big step. We added close to 80 acres of land to the open space inventory, and it's actually probably more than that. The words. One of the big parts, and we'll talk in a minute about the master plan, but one of the big parts of the master plan has called for, preservation of our canopy and our green space, and what they would like to see in the big picture for the community is more open space, more connectivity. So we're doing a lot to add towards that. Working with the Collins Center to develop the long-range capital plan, that was kind of one of the things my first couple of years here was fairly eye-opening on how we were doing our capital improvement plan. There was sort of a five-year matrix, but it wasn't really being stewarded, and not enough thought was going into it. And certainly the work that we did with the Collins Center, which was a long project, required a lot more thought from everybody. So it's a robust plan, it's a long-range plan. It really will help Andrew and I in this board with sort of our long-term strategies, and certainly helps us when we're looking at borrowing and things like that. And the bonding companies are, also pretty interested in knowing that we have some sort of a plan, and we have a vision going down what our, if we borrow this year for something, when the next time we're going to be borrowing, and what we expect that borrowing to be like. We've made improvements on communications with the community, so, we're striving to constantly improve our website and what we get on there. It's been a bit difficult. Social media, it's interesting environment, but we're trying to have more of a presence, and we want to continue that because, that's just where folks are looking for their information, and they expect it to be there. As much as whether I like it or not, or how we feel about it, there's certain times when we have to get to word out to people, and unfortunately, they expect to find it there. So goals moving forward, just some of the things that we have to deal with, but the master plan and pushing the goals of the master plan, that's kind of a big thing. And I want to host a sort of a master plan summit, and probably relatively soon, maybe before summer comes. And that would be a really all boards and committees would be expected to participate in the summit, to make sure that everybody's aware of what actually the goals of the master plan are, and make sure everybody actually knows that there is a master plan and what's in it. I think it was in 2019 that it was adopted, and a lot of people put a lot of work and effort into that master plan, so I think it's important that we follow it.
Scott, if we had a town planner, would they oversee the town master plan?
Yep,
Okay.
absolutely. Update the financial policies. Actually, we're starting on this. I have a meeting in a week or so with a consultant. He's going to redline some of the things I've discussed with him, some of the concerns that Paul and I have discussed, and some of the things we think should be looked at, and then I will probably, circle back, and I've asked him to meet with Paul and Chris and myself and Andrew at some point after that. We'll set up something. But my goal is to get those policies finished, updated, call them whatever we need to call them, and then get them adopted.
Do you think they'll be able to get done this fiscal year, or is
Yep.
that? Okay.
Yeah, I think, I don't know. Well, I guess we'll see how you and I, whether you and I agree or not.
Okay.
But I think we're not too far off on what our concept is here, and we're not looking to recreate the wheel, but we want to make sure it's something that fits for this community. Create more transparency. That's more and more what we hear. There's some really good, transparent, informational annual reports, and I want to model ours after some of these ones. I think Arlington has a really good one, and they've actually won awards. So I want to follow that. The more information that we can put out there, and a lot of this information is even already available to folks. It's just all over the place.
Not in one spot, though. Yeah.
Right, and it's not even just on our spot. It's you would have to go to the state, or you would go to there, and it's no reason for that. I think we can come up with a nice, clear, concise document that everybody can get once a year that it just lets them know where their money is, what our plans are for the future for tax money. It just gives them everything they need. So I think it's important. There are actually interactive ones that you can put on your website that I would probably want to do in the future also, that allows people to do a little bit of a dive into individual departments to some extent, and what their budgets are and what's going on there.
That might decrease our viewership.
Well, maybe we'll somehow make this interactive and get some sort of voting going on. Be like Survivor Island.
Post online polls during the meeting.
Right? Website and social media improvements, we're just not, it's not good enough. We try and we work at it, but I do understand that it's just one of those things that it's evolving quick, and we need to keep up with it a little bit better. And that's not a reflection on the folks that are working on it in town. It's just that we're not doing enough, and I want to push us over that edge. We're almost there.
We figure out who's posting for Abington Police Department on Facebook.
Yeah, right.
They're doing a good job.
We want to get a little bit more comedy out there, I think. Part of we want to implement improvements that will address the management letter items. I put that one in especially for Paul. And I want to initiate a leadership program. One of the things that I think we really need to do, and I think certainly after we have our master plan summit, but the goals, values, vision of the town, really, we need to meet with our emerging leaders, whether they're sergeants in the police department, or they could be staff members downstairs in this building, foremen for the DPW, but we need to identify those folks that we think are going to someday move on up or want to have more of a key role, and then, instill our, again, goals, visions, values into them, and start working them through programs. There's Maya, which could be up in my achievement level there, the fact that, we did manage to migrate our insurance and our liability over to Maya, and that comes with a whole host of amenities, and one of them being training and education, and they have leadership training. Each one of our individual departments have associations that they're involved with, and they all offer leadership training for anyone on their staff. So we want to, kind of get a program together that's going to, identify some of these folks, help them move through that, put a mentorship program with it, and then start, bringing up our future leaders in here. So those are the goals for next year. Some of them will be done before the end of the fiscal year. You glad you asked now? Personnel services, personal services, that's all just contractual obligations in the pay, salaries.
If we were to look at a town planner, would they fall under you in this section?
Well, no, I think we would give them there's a budget, the planning budget. I think we met with the assistant town planner, so there's already sort of that budget in place. So it would be in there. The direct report my recommendation would be that direct report would be to me. Some towns, they direct report to the planning board. I don't recommend that. In fact, I strongly oppose it. So that being said, yeah, it would go into a different budget. And they already, like I said, they're set up with expense lines and stuff anyways. As far as our expenses, some of them are the,
Can I just ask on the salary side, so that stipend, do I have the same one? Isn't there something different? Oh, all right, yeah, there we are, yeah, the HR stipend. What is that?
the HR stipend. So at some point in time, prior to my arrival, the human resource functions, when they eliminated the position of an assistant town manager, they parlayed off the HR functions to the town clerk, who receives a stipend for doing a certain amount. Obviously, it's not full HR, but she gets a stipend for doing some of it. I'm not sure where it was in previous budgets. It's always been there, but we decided this is actually where it should land. So it's not a new item, it's just newly put here.
And have we, because of that switch away from the assistant town manager, have we seen, I noticed the legal budget gone up. Is there any correlation between the elimination and us needing more legal services?
I wasn't here when the assistant town manager, I would say, I don't know. I think a lot has to do with my, probably with my style, the fact that, we're pretty serious about accountability. And we've been working on trainings that were not provided for folks before. We're working on, we worked on, putting together a personnel policy that needed, was just woefully out of date. Some serious contractual issues with the unions that we've been working on. So I think all of that and, not having a full-time human resources person, yeah, that's contributed to looking for more assistance from labor law. And that's where I think you've seen probably most of that money go into labor law.
Okay. And Scott, you have a contract with the town, correct?
I do.
And what year are you in that contract?
I think this was the third year, and they've extended it. So I want to say to 2024.
Okay.
And by they, you mean the select, is that right?
Correct. Where it says selectmen salaries, selectmen do not get paid.
Yeah, I was gonna ask that, like, it just
I
visually,
I know, and I really think,
It always
Every
looks
year,
wrong.
Because
Oh.
it always comes up that there's always people that, because you see that, it looks like the selectmen get paid.
Yeah, can't we do something about that? I mean, we control the general ledger, it's like,
I don't know,
I'll change it.
all right,
I
thank
guess,
you.
yeah. I
What are you
mean,
gonna change it to?
Oh, it can't be that easy.
I know it, but I think it is, right?
It really is.
I guess,
Yeah, that's a conversation that we've had year after year. So I think there's something
Oh, Andrew's gonna change it.
perhaps in Mass General Law that prevents us from just changing it.
really? Well, we'll figure
I
it.
don't remember what it was, but
confident
there was
you got it.
definitely a reason given to us before
Yes,
that
because
it
it always.
displayed, had to display as.
Well, and actually,
salaries,
every
so-
town that I've dealt with, yes, this is,
When we talk
and which is
about
only two others, by the way,
transparency,
but.
if you're confusing, it seems less transparent, you know?
Great point, yes.
So, again, selectmen do not get paid, nor do any of the folks in this room, other than Andrew and I. And,
Right, technically, we all get paid, just not by the town of Abington.
none of you getting paid for this work. Marty, we gave, at one point, but
Yep.
you didn't want to do it
I'm paying to
anymore.
be here.
Yep. So the Arc of the South Shore and the health imperatives, those are things that we, do every year.
Have we actually heard from them this year?
Yeah,
I know
actually.
there was a
they-
long stretch that we didn't hear from
There
them.
was I think it was when I first got in, COVID first hit, that we weren't hearing from, but I'm pretty sure the last couple, or at least last year, we paid them, right?
Not 22. I'll see if they,
Okay.
from them now.
Yeah, no, I think it was 22, but yeah, it was those 2 years for I don't know whether they were shut down or because of COVID or just maybe administrative, they were having issues. Landfill monitoring, this is, mostly goes to Sam Bornhead, who is our consultant for Groveland Street landfill. Currently, this does include, we've had to adjust it, and it also includes, we're starting to monitor for PFAS now, and we're working with DEP ever so glacially slow to try and get them to give us a final sort of closure on it and allow us to go forward with a capping project that would essentially, at no cost to the town, have it capped and allow us to have sort of an enhanced transfer, recycling, compost area in the front.
And then,
That'd be great.
when it's capped, we would then be, not be responsible for the monitoring anymore, correct?
No, we'll always probably have to monitor it. Yeah, I'm pretty sure that the cost will probably be less, but especially now, I think that they're probably always going to have some, they're looking for chemicals, gas, I'm guessing suspended solids, and now PFAS. Yeah.
But
And
even with the capping, it's a lifelong.
Yeah,
It would be a lifelong monitoring for $45,000, which goes up, right?
Yeah, it may go down a bit once we get beyond that hump of getting it capped, or it may just flush out to the same, because this does include them. That company is our consultant for going through that process of this next level. I don't know if anybody watched it it was a while ago when we did the presentation for the selectmen meeting. But at one point, DEP had come out and had said, look, here's some options for, or we had gone to DEP and said, they said, to the old landfill, you have to cap it. We said, well, here's our different options, what we'd like to do. Can you approve them? And they just never answered us.
Because there was different types of capping.
Yeah. And essentially, the one, the least really impactful one, and it's not requiring, bladders or any of that stuff. It's basic fill on top of it. They've essentially said, yeah, that's probably all you're going to have to do. And it was really that post-use that we're trying to get them to sort of decide that, how much of the post-use they're going to allow.
If you do it that way.
Yeah, and there were a lot of other interesting factors that fall into it. So, hopefully we'll see something in the near future. I actually had reached out to them because we were supposed to have an answer in December. Still hadn't heard anything, so I reached out to the consultant who said he was going back and forth with DEP and hoped yet again to have an answer soon. Next one was Police Chief Search Committee. We hope never to need that again. Let's see, auditing and accounting's Powers and Sullivan. I believe Andrew and I were discussing, I think they're on their last year of their contract. We'll put together some sort of a qualification bid, an RFQ, to get into a new 3-year contract with them or someone else.
I believe the contract goes through the fiscal '23 audit, so that's actually next year. So we've still got a little bit more time.
We've got a little bit of time left.
So, but if it's, aren't they, so they did.
We're in fiscal
Oh,
'23
right.
now, so they're
So they
contracted
audit
through
fiscal
to
23.
do the fiscal '23 audit, which happens
Yeah.
during fiscal '24.
Yeah, I get
I
it.
get it.
Yeah, no, right. But is there any options for like one or, like, how long is their agreement? Is it,
These are the option years.
oh, so you already are in the option years, okay. What do you get, 3 option years?
2.
2? Okay.
And you see that Andrew took my postage out. Added my telephone back in. Other purchase and services, and this is our consultant, right? So I have, these will be the social media and website development consultants. They're working with us on tracking, not only tracking, but reacting to social media. And we had put together a program about a year ago with the same consultant, one of them, requiring, or just setting up and looking, we kind of went through every department's website and tried to clean it out, update it, and post more relative stuff to it. And then there's supposed to be a program where they're going to get once a month, everybody sort of assigned to do something and post something, and it's just nobody's monitoring it. We don't have staff inside to really make this program work. So we're going to try it with a consultant and go outside. And a lot of the times when, although the code reds are done in-house by Lindsay, some of the other information that you do see out there on social media and some of the reactionary stuff you see does come through our consultant. So I'm trying to actually parlay some of the ARPA money to pay for some of this also.
Just thinking out of the box, is this something that, sometimes we use college students that are going to school for advertising, or that are going to school for
This isn't, no, this isn't like a project. This is something more, this is something that's set in, that we've already sort of done.
Gotcha.
But we, and it is kind of interesting, though, because we are, at least, in throughout my associations, there's a lot of frustration with trying to find kids from Bridgewater specifically, because it's the closest one in this South Shore area, to see if they're any interest in coming into anything for government, and it's pretty difficult. Even paid internships. We do have a couple projects. I think that Adam's usually pretty good at getting someone to come in, usually from the high school, and do some projects for him. I think they probably do it as a work-off program for their community service.
We had one in the health department every year.
Yeah, the health department was always pretty lucky. I know that Leanne's kind of spotty off and on in getting someone down there to do just some basic stuff, but, it's been kind of difficult. But we do like the idea, and we do actually continue to pursue it. But not, like, this is pretty, a specific program that we want implemented. That's, yeah, and I think if it done right and done properly, I think people are already seeing it. You see it, it's actually the newsletters that go out quarterly as part of the program. We do spotlights on different employees to try and recognize them and recognize what they're doing. If you participate in any of the surveys that we've done, the surveys were all part of this and through the consultant. So, year one, we've used ARPA money to pay for it, but I think going forward, it's a program that we want to keep, and we want, I think it's worthwhile. It's obviously a lot less expensive than hiring in-house to do it. And it also gives us that ability to walk away at the end of the year if it doesn't work, or if it's not going the way we want it. It's a lot easier to find another route to travel.
So what would the annual cost be going forward?
What was it, 18?
So 15 for the software and then 18 for the consultants.
Yeah. Office supplies and travel, pretty flat. Dues and fees. Did we add onto that for MMA for the selectmen? Is that why we went up on that, dues and fees?
Something like that.
Yeah. Well, I encourage everyone to actually participate in Mass Municipal Association. You guys are members of the MFA? MMA and then FA? Through the MMA?
Do we actually have a membership?
Yeah,
We all do?
you do. I think I sent you the link at one point.
Yeah.
We pay dues.
And we pay dues.
And then there was an event too, is that?
Yeah, that's
Yeah, we
the,
did.
There's an annual,
It's on
Yeah.
events
Yeah.
every year, and sometimes twice a year.
yeah, they probably have a spring and fall conference, and then there's an annual conference, there's a big annual conference.
just a thought. Because we had a change in roles, or things shifted around a little bit with our recording secretary, so that is how have we paid our dues? Have we paid our dues?
Probably would have come through Nancy. As a matter of fact, I'm sure it would go through Nancy, it wouldn't have gone through, but I'll check with Nancy tomorrow, but I'm sure that they have, because I think they would have reached out to me. I'm on,
The last time, when I was the chair, the last time we got the
The bill.
bill, I think I gave it to Scott.
Yeah. That was pretty recently. That was within the last 3 or 4 months.
is it that recent?
There was a letter, addressed to you in there.
Yeah.
I don't know if it was that bill, but I didn't open it. Yeah, right to you.
It's like a bill.
Yeah.
We should probably check.
But I'll double check, but otherwise, someone from the MMA, or, because it's Denise Baker, who does pretty much everything, she would reach out to me anyhow. But again, I'll ask her and send the link out. There's a lot of interesting information that you have available to you. And it's also good to see, I just, went through, I had signed up for a municipal finance class with, through Suffolk that's sponsored by the MMA. And they did it when I first started here, and they just kept delaying it for COVID, and then it kept getting filled, and I wasn't going to do it. And then they sent me, they're like, hey, we have a spot. You want to do that?
Is it
I'm like,
virtual
"Oh."
or?
Yeah, it was on Zoom every, past, I don't know how many Fridays, but it was kind of remedial at this point. But it was interesting, and it's interesting to work with and see that, other folks that are going through sort of the same thing that we go through every year. Let's see, so other budgets, town meeting, probably should put more on there, because we're gonna have two. Finance committee, you guys are,
Which does not get salary.
you guys are so expensive. An extra $52.
We'll have to use that money for,
That was the candy fund.
About time. Now we're talking about important stuff.
Reserve fund, I guess we're proposing just to keep it the same. We, and I guess a quick sidebar on that, because we were fortunate, I don't think we jumped into it last year or the year before, and we actually had a pretty healthy one the year before.
Yeah, when you first came in and we were prepping,
For
because
doomsday?
COVID hit right before we were done with the budget, we really bulked that up and thankfully did not have to touch it.
Then we got
How much is in
So-
there currently?
50, yeah.
Yeah,
And that's
we
what we're
went back
proposing.
to, 50 has been the standard for most of the time I've been on the committee, so we went back to that.
But I have had some conversations with Chief Nuttall, and it is a tight year for them. In the recent issues with Brockton Hospital closing,
Oof, yeah.
and most likely, from everything I'm hearing, may not reopen. Certainly not
So they're-
reopening.
They're not
soon.
opening until at least next week, from what I heard
So-
today.
And depending on their capacity and what they can do will affect.
Right, because you can't transport to Brockton, and the next options are South Shore, which doesn't have the capacity.
And
then the
it's,
next
everybody
option
else is also.
Good Samaritan, which is further, so you're sending your,
So, he just, wanted to give a heads up, not really sure how it's going to affect us, but it's quite possible it could. It's certainly going to affect other communities who even have a longer, because it creates more response time. They're off the road longer.
right,
But-
because they're further away at hospitals that are further away.
So we'll see, but just a heads up, I mean, he did say it is a tight year for them. And I did have to fix the roof again over on Station 2.
You yourself.
I hired somebody, although I have quite a background in flat roofs, so I could do it. I could have saved us about a few $100. Legal retainer, we talked about, we're looking to go up again next year. Now that we have all of our policies in place, we still have to implement them. We have to train and educate everybody on them, and that will be with council. We plan to do at least one or two committee trainings, like we've done down at the senior center, and, again, impact bargaining. These new policies all will happen next year.
How's has the town started doing the state ethics conflict of interest training? How do you find the?
It's every
New
couple of
website.
years, and what'll happen is you'll get an email, and actually, I just got an update. They're doing it different, right? Is there
Yeah.
a different login for it now, or?
Yeah,
There's some, so,
because you could have your admin set everybody else up, otherwise you go in and create your own, yeah.
I know that Leanne will be sending out, emails, and it depends, I think, every other year. Is it still every other year you take the test?
Yes,
And every other year you just acknowledge? or
Right.
something. All right, so I'm not sure where everybody is this year, but I'm sure Leanne will be sending something out. But that is one of the things that we'll do, and we'll do it probably right after the election cycle, is have open meeting law training again. And I think it'll be the basic open meeting law training, but we'll probably do, maybe something like we had touched on, and we'll talk about later, is the minutes and what should be in minutes and, what kind of things we should be looking for there. And anything else, I mean, we're certainly open to whatever committees are looking for. If they need more training, we're happy to provide it. And then you get into electricity. Obviously, we're anticipating all of our, electric, gas, especially our gas and heating. And I don't know, were you able to make any sense of that contract I signed?
The contract that you signed still
For-
subjects us to market prices.
Yeah, so we're trying to shop out some. We just signed with Direct Energy to try and help us. We had a great contract with them that runs up until like April. Unfortunately, we're not going to see those prices again.
The prices they quoted us were 3 to 4 times what we were contracted for.
Yeah.
That's why you're seeing that giant increase now.
What does the school have? Because there's.
They're on the same. They have the same contract that we did. I don't,
But I didn't think they had a bump in there, because I thought they said they had negotiated something that they're.
we had two contracts that we negotiated together, and we have one that is I think the electrical one is going further out than the gas one.
Yeah, the electrical one goes out 1 more year, so that's why you don't see that much of
Okay.
an increase.
But the gas
Yes.
one, I'm pretty sure, yeah, we consolidated the gas too, and I'll double check on that. We had a really great rate.
Right.
But the reason, it just wasn't long-term.
Oh.
And it runs out in fact, April. So the upside to it is it runs out in April, and, rates are probably gonna drop a bit at that point anyways. But we won't, we'll be looking, when we get into the next fiscal year, at probably, unless things drastically change, as Andrew said, 3 times what we're looking at.
Because we're talking about electricity, can you just, a lot of complaints that I'm seeing about the town switching.
Town didn't switch, and that's not like a new thing. The town's offering,
Automatically enrolling people
Right.
into.
and we don't have a choice. It's either we do that, or we say everybody's on their own.
Right.
So this
Can you
gave
just
us.
explain that?
Yeah, so what this did is this, and this is through the Department of Public Utilities, it allowed the town as an option to say, look, we as a group, as 9,000 households or whatever it is, can purchase collectively and get a better rate. And so we shopped that around and we got that better rate. But the only way to do it and lock it in is by that is the primary electric supply for the town. Now, anybody at any given point in time can, even today, even if I didn't do that, they can go and shop and go online, and they can hook up with Constellation, Direct Energy, I don't know, there's probably 12 different companies out there that they can use as a supplier other than National Grid. They can pick any one of them. National Grid's still going to do what we're doing now and send it to you, and you can lock in a long-term contract with them. This one is not a long-term contract. This one was and you have the ability to say, I'm not interested, I want to do my own thing.
And does it revert back to,
Eventually, it'll revert back. I think we probably did 2 6-month periods. So within a year, it reverts back to, if we don't do it again, which we might, we're constantly going to be shopping it. If we don't do it again, it'll revert back to the basic service, and you'll just pay through National Grid. Right now, the worst-case scenario is, if you did nothing, you're saving money. If you did nothing but pay your bill, and you were already a basic supplier, you don't have to do anything. And if you said, well, I don't like the fact that you're monkeying around, I don't want to save money, then unfortunately you had to do something. You had to opt out.
But only if you were with National Grid.
Right, if you already had another program that was
Right.
saving you money,
well, I think-
again, you didn't have to do anything.
Exactly, right.
I think a lot of the complaints I was seeing was also, I think, the mailing that it came in looked too much like the regular, it wasn't,
It had a big stamp with a beaver on it that said Town of Abington, but I don't know what else I could do.
yeah,
But I do understand, that was the general complaint that we did receive, is that a lot of people just threw it
They
away.
thought it was.
Junk mail,
Thank you, junk
yeah.
mail. But maybe where you're contracting these services now
Yeah.
for social media type of outreach
We
and
could
that
do
kind
it.
of thing, you
Mm.
might be able to get that word out for something like that.
And didn't you do a town manager corner about it, or there was something at the senior center discussing?
We did,
Details.
Kevin did come down to the senior center with ABCAM, and we actually had 2 presentations by the consultant to give everybody sort of a heads up on it and give a question and answer, and both of them were well attended, but the senior center one was very well attended, and they had really good questions, and pretty much anything that you can think of was asked and answered, and they had good answers. But again, the biggest general complaint was, first of all, I didn't even know we were doing this, and it looked hokey. There's, the logo didn't look right, and God bless them that they had the good instincts to question something like that, because we
There
tell
are
everybody,
scams,
don't trust
that's
anybody.
the thing.
Too many scams, right,
It's,
so yeah, it'll be up to the selectmen to decide again whether they want to continue the program. But the way it works, and that was actually the last year, I think, with that consultant for the program, although they're a great consultant, I think we were a little late to the party. I think we could have got a better rate had we jumped in a little bit earlier. That wouldn't have changed any of the complaint part about it. It just would have offered somebody, offered a better rate to everybody. But that was that's a Old Colony Planning Council years ago had put out the RFQ to find and procure this for areas that wanted to do it, and then they had to actually have public hearings on it. So it wasn't a new concept, it's just that we weren't getting a good rate. We finally had gotten a rate. We put it out, but it does require, it requires you watching it. And the other part that happens, and if people aren't aware, you get into the next season, you could end up paying a penny more. So, where you saved 11 cents on this end, you could lose a penny and only net the 10 cents or whatever, if you don't watch. But if you watch it,
I think
you can
too,
just cancel out at any point.
People going paperless and things, so there's,
Yeah.
they don't necessarily attribute something that's coming in the mail with the beaver on it
Right?
to their electric bill,
Yeah.
right? Because their electric bill is probably paperless, and they're looking at it online, and so they're not expecting to get anything in the mail
That
has to
isn't
do
with the
their
electric bill.
That
Yeah.
doesn't say like National Grid over the top of it, or, whatever some of the other companies are.
And they're probably tired of people banging on their door saying, hey,
Right.
I'm here.
Would you like solar panels?
Yeah.
You know, electricity
So,
from
again,
this vendor?
The instincts are good, and our intentions on our end, obviously, were good.
Oh, absolutely.
And I think, overall, I think it was a good, it's a good program. I certainly look at my bill. We did it when I was on the Board of Selectmen in Whitman, and they never renewed it. I was really upset, because when I got my last bill, I was paying more than everybody in Abington's paying. But no good deed goes unpunished.
Scott, I only
So,
have one question on the second page. What happened to the postage? I can't believe.
Andrew happened to the
I'm
postage.
kidding.
It's all Andrew.
Andrew's personally stamping the beaver onto the envelopes.
Actually, it's salary. I made him do it by hand. Draw that in.
And deliver.
Yeah, so that's, unfortunately, I would like to think that we won't need all that, but it's not looking good. Obviously, the copiers, we have our copiers. I'm not sure what 5290, why did we add on that one, Andrew? What is that little, other property-related services? Is that that maintenance or?
It is maintenance.
Okay. And we're not mailing out town reports anymore, apparently. There's no postage there. Oh, no, that was Andrew taking it and putting it in the postage
Okay, 'cause I was
pile.
gonna say, we're required, how many, certain number, right?
And we send a card to everybody. We don't hand out the report, we just say it's
Yeah.
available. A postcard to everybody, right? Yeah. Yeah, and then you have North River Collaborative, ADA, and our liability insurance. We're still waiting on Maya to come back with those numbers. I hope that is a high number. I'm assuming it is, but how high, I'm not really sure. Again, Maya and our health insurance carrier, we're new to them. So they're, kind of waiting as long as they can before they give us those renewal numbers to get as much claims experience out of us as they can.
So if we came in at 900,000, we'd have enough money for a town planner?
Depends where all my other contracts come in
And where the state comes in.
and where the state comes in.
And where the cops are by contract.
Anything else for Scott? Articles specific to you that you know of?
Well, really specific to me, but just in general, I know that we, and I think Liz had mentioned, there's probably 12 or 13 zoning articles. Nothing really new there with the zoning articles. I think a lot of it has to do with our MS4 and stormwater management issues and making sure that those requirements are reflected throughout the bylaws. I do have I think we're going to have a proposed article for local speed zone options, which would allow the Board of Selectmen to look at certain neighborhoods and decide that the speed could be set as low as, I think, 25 or something like that. Adam Gunn.
How high can we go?
Between 25 and Route 18.
Well, Route 18, we don't have any control out of, and that's obviously from everything I see on Facebook it's a super highway now. I'm one of those ones who does stay in the right lane, because I'm always
Yeah.
pulling in somewhere. Adam had mentioned that, we're gonna have a tax rebate program similar to the senior rebate program for vets. We'll have that article. I'm pretty sure that we're gonna have a borrowing article for about 480 to 400, maybe 500,000 up in that area for an ambulance that we actually won't borrow for probably into the next fiscal year. I think I got my first estimate, or the estimate in for the Frollo ramp project, and it's a lot higher than I was expecting. So I may put that off to the fall town meeting. It's coming in at like just under $500,000. We need to do something there, but I think that is something I probably can get earmarks from. It certainly should be. It's a shovel-ready project now, and it ticks off a lot of the boxes when you're looking for grants and earmarks, as far as it opens it up to accessibility for use for, and the uses that we have for there, in the part of the community that are affected and get to actually use that. So I think that we have a pretty good chance. So I'm going to hold off and plan on that for the fall. If it came in that, sort of 200,000 and under area, I probably would have had an article for it, but that's not the case. We're going to have an article that as you heard, Social Votech is looking to add Marshfield to the consortium, to the group, so that's actually probably a good thing. That's it. There'll be our capital plan will be in there, and I don't anticipate much more. We need a hook. I don't know. Otherwise, it's just not a very exciting town meeting.
Oh, I'm sure that
It's always
will
something.
come up.
We'll find something?
It's always something.
Well, we intend to close the warrant on Monday, and if the warrant closes, I mean, I haven't even had anybody reach out to me for any interesting citizens petitions. I don't think CPC is doing anything crazy. I don't think there's any, crazy funding asks in there. I know that, we have a couple that we're looking to get some money from them for our open space plan. We want to finally get that finished. I think we need some matching funds for some of the trail projects that we want to do. The Memorial Bridge, we're probably going to be looking for some money from CPC for that. Or actually, they already gave it to us, and actually, we're working with the consultant to find grant money for that. So I don't see that being ready for anything this year.
We should get moving on that. There's a Jersey barrier type thing up because one of the posts is, just saying.
Post is fine.
No, not the post, the railing
Oh, yeah.
is missing. This is, one of the spokes, or a couple of the spokes. So there's a orange, what do you call those?
Jersey barrier. yeah.
Okay. On the bridge. Which is,
There's nothing we can do about it. The bridge didn't just fall apart.
Nope.
It's been happening for years, and we're
Absolutely.
tackling it now.
Absolutely.
So,
Saying.
but yeah, I agree. I would like to, unfortunately, where we're at with the grants, the first part of the grants actually get us through mostly like the design and development phase of it, and then the second part of the grants will help us actually do the building. And it was I don't remember the price tag, but it's a pretty hefty price tag over there. So, at some point, we'll look at it, we may end up borrowing money for it, and we may borrow money through CPC and have CPC pay it. Well, that's why the barrier's there. In worst case scenario, I would hate to do it, but we'd line the whole thing with barriers on either side. How deep is the pond?
Not very.
What's in it?
At that area, in that area, it's not super deep, but
Lawnmowers from the
I
old
think the
park
fall
and rec.
onto whatever you.
But the weed control, we're going forward with that. So we'll probably be doing permitting over the next couple of months, and then come the spring, I think they'll be able to start applying the pesticides, the herbicides, or whatever they are. So, but yeah, I don't anticipate, there may be an article in there to take the land next to the police station. I think there'll probably be an article for that.
To the, as you're looking at.
Yeah, not
the
Glen LaPointe's building, but the opposite
the
side of
right,
it. There's a
yeah.
piece that used to have a house on it that we
Yeah.
tore down.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
And that would make it a lot easier getting, for the fire, right, to get in?
I
So
think,
they don't have to turn around?
I think the thought for that, it is an access road, but I'm not sure if it's for both fire. I haven't seen the final conceptual plan, but it's definitely, yeah, it would be just an access road in there that would go all the way back and around.
Yeah.
And either way, I think, no matter where that project's going, that's a piece of property. I think it would be a good public use to have it, and I think it makes sense for the town to have it.
It backs right up to the cemetery, so it's not like this,
You know, Not bothering anybody.
right.
So, yeah, that's about it. We had kind of kicked around the idea of, at some point, the Cannabis Control Commission is, Greg, you still there? The Cannabis Control Commission is working on regulations to allow sort of like cafes, but they haven't really finished the regs. We were hoping to maybe have an article for that, and that's just it's not going to happen this year. So
Not gonna
maybe-
happen in time.
Maybe happen in the fall.
I
but-
meant in time for town meeting.
No, it definitely won't. As a matter of fact, it probably won't in time for the fall, the way that the Cannabis Control Commission's working. so.
Thank you for thinking of me, Scott.
Well, I was worried, you were awful quiet up there, so I had to throw some cannabis in.
For clarity, how many millions have we made?
Just under 1 at this point. And have we made $1 million yet? Do we hit the mega buck? Not yet? All right, we're close. Next year.
All right, crossing fingers.
Yeah, that's it. It's not gonna be exciting yet.
All right. Anything else for Scott from the committee? All right, thanks, Scott. Appreciate it.
You're welcome.
Thank you very much.
Let's see, next in our agenda is to discuss specific minutes. However, I was, as you guys know, I wasn't here last week. I think I missed some conversation around the length of the minutes or how we're structured them. If you guys, is that right? Like,
Level of detail?
Level of detail.
Paul didn't like it. That's basically what it boiled down to.
Yeah, it reads as a transcript.
I do have to agree with Paul. I think the idea of the minutes is not to be, a transcript is not to be everything verbatim, it's to get sort of the gist of the meeting. And certainly record votes and stuff like that, but I've been on boards where we've had similar minutes, and it does kind of bring up some problems, and, you know, you get concerned on when somebody's, you know, so-and-so said this, but if it's in relation to something that somebody else said and that's not in the minutes, then you know, it can create a problem. So I'd be happy to get some sort of guidance on this for you guys if you want, or, I mean, it's up to you.
I do like a certain level of detail about the conversation, not who said what, but what the conversation is that was taking place, whether, you know, discussion regarding,
Yeah.
And the thing is, ours is different too, because it's not related to an action we're taking. So I think we've got some discretion there, but I just feel like there's too much there. And because when you read them, it's sort of like you go through, it's like, well, didn't something else happen? And then like, why isn't that in there? And it just leads to.
Yeah, and it's certainly like, you know, you could get to the point, like tonight, it could be that the chief of police made his presentation, discussion ensued. There were questions regarding staffing levels.
Right.
There were questions regarding, is it necessary to have such a high staffing anticipation? Could the money be parlayed somewhere else? But you don't need to say that, you know, Marty specifically asked over and over and over and over. Right.
I see what you're doing there.
Or, you know, whatever. I mean, I do think, and that's my personal opinion, and, you know, as you know, Paul and I don't usually agree.
That's true.
So this is
Yeah, that's
a rare occasion.
Uncommon
But
ground.
I do like less is better.
So I generally err on the side of why not have more detail in there, but I do get the idea, or, you know, what you're saying as far as it could present more questions if things were out of context.
Well, and a really good example is if you specifically say somebody said that, and you didn't get it perfectly right, or you didn't include the parts of the conversation that led up to somebody saying that.
Right.
Could make it seem like the person is either biased or, and when it could have just, you know, been, but for whatever reason, that stuck out more than anything else.
Right.
I mean, or you could just watch the video.
Yeah.
Quite
Yeah.
honestly, but, so that's why I think you know, all of the information's in the video.
But the video is not a required.
No, but
No, I
We
think
do.
probably, at some point, it probably will be, right?
I would have.
Well, isn't it a public record once you create
Well,
it?
once it's we don't create it though, Abington Cable is creating it.
But they
So
are archived
They're,
through them.
But it's only because they're
Through
doing
them.
it. It's
Right.
not because it's
It's
a
not
required
the
thing.
town that's archiving.
So the minutes are what's required.
Right, which is, so that's why I
And so
do
you-
like to know the conversation,
Right.
not necessarily who said what, but just that what the conversation was about. I'd like to have it, be able to look at meeting minutes if I'm going to look
Yeah.
back.
Okay.
And it's, like, for example, if we wanted to find out what the police revolving account was, or enterprise account, you know, discussion around you know,
Motor vehicle
That
fine
I
account or
could-
mystery account.
But isn't that the purpose of your own notes, though? I mean, that's not for the minutes to say,
No,
well, let
but
me
I'm
go.
not, if I'm not on the finance committee, I don't have my own notes. If I'm just a citizen that wants to look up, the discussion that I've heard took place 2 years ago about Island Grove's bandstand area, I want to be able to look through the minutes and see what the, you know, all right, what was done at that time. Also, the other thing too, I think, when we have that information and are able to look it up, it lends itself to, I think I've used this story before, where we were having a meeting one time and someone was in here that had been on the board many years before. We were trying to find a way to come up with, I think at that point, it was maybe $25,000 just to balance the budget. And somebody stood up in the meeting and said, 15 years ago, we did such and such, right? So that's something that I could then look up in the meeting minutes and see what exactly, all right, how did they go about that? What was, because there was detail in there. So some of the history aspect of it, or the being able to know what was going on at the time and why decisions were being made, I think you need a certain amount of detail.
Okay.
But not
Yeah.
who said what,
Yeah.
right? Maybe
Yeah.
not that, you know, Paul said,
Yeah, because like the questions Marty asked tonight were spot on, I think, great.
Thank you.
But to put them all in the minutes, it's sort of, where's that line? And I think you have to be careful with that. And I think the summary that you provided, yeah, that's all you really need, that there were questions about staffing and, but it doesn't, here's the thing, it doesn't stop Marty from saying, when we come reviewing, like, I want this in the minutes. It's
I would
kind of
never
like.
do that. I think we only need to get granular about the things that deserve granularity.
No, but
Right.
that is true, because, I mean, and I know people have, on different boards and committees have said, I do want the minutes to reflect my statement here, or whatever.
Right. Well, and that's why they say, be careful with this, because if you record everything, then that's what happens. People grandstand and they like, I'm gonna make my statement because it's gonna show up in the minutes, and it's like, that's not what the purpose of the minutes is.
And you gotta be consistent too, whatever we decide.
Right.
I mean, it has to be, it should be consistent throughout all boards, but it's certainly consistent throughout this board, that whatever you come up with for a plan is the plan that we always do. And
So, Kelly, is that clear as mud?
Really sorted that out.
right.
So I'm interested, Kelly, what are your thoughts here? If we could still have a solid layer of detail without saying Marty said this and Daniel said that, what are your thoughts on your ability to capture that?
Yeah, I sent it over 2 more. Well, I redid the 11th.
In the 25th, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Pulled back on, you know, who said what. It was a little bit more vague to give less information, but when discussion came up, put that in there. And you guys can look at that and see if that's too little or is it in the right sweet spot?
Okay.
You know, it's all on what you want to see captured, and unfortunately, though there are bylaws and rules, everybody wants different things. So it's
Okay.
really up to you all on how you want it to be captured, but
Okay.
I did pull way back on the last 2, so you should see that reflected.
Yep. Okay. Thanks, Kelly.
Yep.
So to that point, I have an email prepped, ready to go, send everybody here the 11th and 25th versions that she redid. So I'd like you to do is review it, and then next week we'll vote on those, and then we can decide if that's a good format or if we want to refine it even more. So does that work for everybody as far as the
Yes.
minutes?
Yep, I'm fine with it.
Okay.
Thank you.
Cool. Do we have any liaison reports?
No?
No?
Not tonight.
What do we got next?
DPW and the building committee. Or DPW fire building committee.
That's next week?
Next week.
DPW fire. Wait, DPW.
What's next week?
The
DPW.
the building committee.
Bill. Okay.
Which is really brief, I mean, they just want to give you an update, but, again, we're not looking for any money at town meeting this year.
Didn't they presented last
So
night, didn't they? Didn't they have a
DPW
meeting?
and who?
No, they had a committee
Fire
meeting, but they didn't
DPW
present
building
anything.
committee.
Oh,
They did have a meeting.
Got it. The fire DPW committee.
The building committee.
I don't
Right, I know, I'm
It's a
confused.
long day for me right now. So Kelly, do you have that for next week? We can get the agenda out.
I heard DPW, and who was the other?
Here we go.
The fire station DPW building committee.
And that's the only thing next week.
Not DPW themselves.
Is it DPW also?
Yes.
Oh, no,
Oh,
and DPW.
it is
Yeah,
DPW,
okay.
DPW and the fire DPW.
What's on
building
second?
committee.
So it's John Stone and then.
Tomorrow.
Yes.
Separate, two separate presentations.
Okay.
Got it.
So John's presentations are always very good, very
We'll get the
interesting.
agenda out.
Yes.
For next week, though, so my daughter got accepted into Cardinal Spellman, which is great.
Congratulations.
And so there's the acceptance
Oh.
thing next Wednesday, so I will not be here for that, unfortunately.
We will take good notes.
Yes, yeah.
Watch
Minutes
the
will be
video.
spectacular.
Yeah.
Maybe a YouTube.
Yeah, right, exactly.
A discussion ensued, no votes were taken.
Exactly, yeah, right.
That's me, but I got that advice from one of my attorneys.
And then the following week is school vacation, so we will not be meeting over that. So a little bit of a break for us, unless you have kids.
So if the town meeting's at the 4th, when do we have to have our work done? Isn't it
10
10
days.
days before?
10 days
Yeah,
prior.
I have you
We
guys
have to have
down
all
to
all recommendations voted.
3/23, March 23rd, you have to
Posted.
have your stuff to town clerk stamped.
Okay.
So, at some point, probably next week, we'll give you the draft warrant. It'll be closed, we'll have a draft warrant, draft whatever the capital's gonna be that's in it. And then, I mean, that'll give us a couple weeks in March, a couple meetings that will just be really reviewing it. I think you're done with department heads unless we, I don't see, if something comes up and you wanna bring another one through,
Contracts.
or bring them
Contracts
back
that
through.
might come up.
I certainly would hope to have those contracts
But
finished and ready and a number in the warrant articles for you then.
All right, very good. I just sent that email out to everyone with the minutes. Anybody have anything else?
motion to adjourn?
Second.
Any discussion? All right, motions to adjourn. All in favor?
Aye?
Any opposed?
All right.
All right.